on airplane mode. You can put me on.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, welcome to another edition of the Tuesday Night Flight, probably the most mellow flight you'll be on this week. We got with us tonight none other than the gentleman Jack. And of course, you already know what it is. We told you what it is. You normally see him in the comments, but he here live in living color. Matty Ice.
Howdy, everybody.
We're gonna get into this thing. The Boss BJ on special assignment. The Midnight Rider on special assignment. We got to start this off the way we normally do. When a lot of things happen all at once, and we've been hit with 4 tragedies back to back to back to back. So I didn't make a whole banner. I just got to put the banner as rest in peace. First up was John Aston from Beverly Hills Cop fame, Sergeant Taggart. Then later in the day yesterday, which is why I have Big John behind me, we lost probably one of the greatest shot blockers in NBA history, and Dikembe Mutombo. Then later on in the evening, we lose the hit king himself, arguably the greatest hitter. I like to call him and Tony Gwynn the 2 greatest hitters. There's no 1 and there's no 2. It's 1 and 1. Tony Gwynn, Pete Rose, greatest hitters of all time. And we lost the greatest hitter of all time in Pete Rose. And then Kansas City Chiefs football player was announced today that John Amos died back on the 21st of August. Yo, I am reeling right now. And I'm going to turn it over to Jack because I know he has a lot to say about Pete Rose. And I'll give Matty the floor, and I'll take it last. But, Jack, take it away.
Pete Rose, whenever I say or see or watch videos, that just brings me back to my childhood. I can see myself sitting there, Indian style, in front of the TV, watching the Big Red Machine, a team that dominated the National League throughout the 70s. I can name the whole lineup, but I ain't trying to keep y'all here. We're talking about right now Peter Edward Rose, the hit king, Charlie Hustle. And, some people say where that name come from. Believe it or not, that name came from 2 Yankees. Whitey Ford and Mickey Mantle gave him that nickname. They said, what's that kid doing running to first base? He got to walk. And that's where that name came about, from Pete Rose busting his butt to get to first base. He played the game 150%. So when my dad taught me, don't let up, keep your foot on the gas pedal. And you've seen stuff like that, like that all-star game where he comes around third and bowls over the catcher. Pete always played hard. As I said, remember the Big Red Machine? He had 4,256 hits, 3,562 games, 14,053 at-bats, and 3,215 singles. All of those are records I don't think are going to be touched. Players don't play enough to get these records anymore. And funny thing is, Pete passed Monday. He was out doing an autograph show this weekend in Tennessee with gentlemen from his Big Red Machine. He was out there with Dave Concepcion, Tony Perez, Dave Parker, and I believe Griffey was out there too, Griffey Sr. So he had a weekend because he loved his Cincinnati Red teammates, and that team loved each other. That's why they were so strong and so good, the bond that team had. And they say Pete always took control. So their guy went down yesterday, and God bless Pete Rose and his family.
Yeah, can't say it any better than that on Pete Rose. I mean, take away all of his issues. He was a very complex man, and let's be honest with Pete Rose. He put himself into a lot of bad situations, right? So I get some of the reason why MLB has been hesitant to put him in the Hall of Fame because he has some warts out there. You know, the fact that he bet on baseball, and yes, he always bet on the Reds, but like the point I bring out to everyone is, okay, he bet with a bookie. So what did he tell the bookie when he didn't bet on the Reds to win? You know, he gave a clear, you know, so, but take all that out. As a player, the man should be in the Hall of Fame, period. He's the hit leader. What he did on the field deserves to be in the Hall of Fame. And I think my favorite Pete Rose memory is I remember when he was going for the record to get the most hits ever. And you know, back in those days, you didn't have a phone where you could just instantly watch anything. You had to sit there with your VCR, hit record, and keep waiting. And then he didn't get the hit. And you're like, darn it, rewind the tape, get ready for the next at bat. And then he finally hits it. And I still have that VHS tape of him breaking the hit record somewhere. I don't, you know, whether I don't have any device to watch it on, but I still have the tape somewhere for some stupid reason. You know, he was just great. You know, on Dikembe, you know, he was the shot blocker of all shot blockers, you know, Mr. Defense. And then of course came to even more fame with his famous Geico commercials. No, no, no. You know, I mean, just he might be more famous with young people because of those Geico commercials than his actual playing career, which is a shame because he was a hell of a player. You know, it's just to lose them both on the same day was just weird and just sad. Like you said, it's you know, when we're all I think around the same age, and when players of this age start to go, it makes you feel even more mortal, unfortunately.
I agree, and I shared one of my great memories of Pete Rose was when him, A-Rod, and Frank Thomas were talking hitting. And I always said that when it comes to hitting, I've never heard nobody other than Pete Rose and Tony Gwynn break it down to a science. And these are PhD professors like at Oxford. Everybody else, all other great hitters, you know, they're just professors at Yale. No, these are professors at Oxford that the professors at Yale had to study under to become professor. Because it's just the way he said, you know, how do I bust out of a slump? I move up in the box, move back in the box, move over to the plate, move away from the plate, choke up on the back, choke down on the back. And I was like, yo, I never thought about nothing like that. You know, when I was younger, around the time that I was trying to play baseball, they said you break out of a slump, you know, you got to get one of your, you got to get a pair of your girlfriend's underwear and put them on. And wear them for a week. You know, that's how you break out of a slump. I'm like, damn, I never heard nobody say that. But
I mean, tell you, my father said that. my father was a big Rod Carew and Tony Gwynn. He loved some Tony Gwynn. But yes, my father would teach us as 11-year-olds, 12-year-olds. You know, say you're 0 for 3 and you get up there and you know you're in the on deck circle and your head's down because you're 0 for 3. Pop would say, step up in the box, choke up a little bit. I mean, he moved us around the box too, and it could be through Tony Gwynn, Pete Rose, and Rod Carew's standards, because they were all three pretty much some of the best hitters I ever seen myself play.
And to know you lost somebody like that, and I get what you're saying, Matty, and you're absolutely right. Did he have his problems off the field? Yes. I just always thought, and I even thought this when I was younger, I said, if you bet on your team to win, isn't that what you want to do? Now, if he bet against the Reds and they didn't win and he was winning money like that, yeah, okay, get him up out of here. But he bet for his team to win. And I never thought about it like that, about the nights that he didn't bet, that, you know, that's kind of sort of saying something. I always said, you know, well, okay, he bet on him to win. Let's roll with that. Now, one thing I don't want MLB to do is don't make this the time that you put him in the Hall of Fame now. I think that is a backhanded compliment. And I hope like hell, if they try to do that, his family says, no, we don't want it. Because you had so much time to take care of this. And I remember, I think it was Bud Selig said he was going to go and he was going to review everything and talked about lifting the ban. I think this is about 25 years ago. He talked about lifting the ban and they never did anything to do it. That's what hurt me. Because I'm like, okay, I think he suffered enough. But you're taking one of the greatest players in the history of the sport, the greatest hitter by all standards. You're taking him away from the game that where the game actually needs him. That's the problem.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm just like, yeah, this is no good. When it comes down to Dikembe Mutombo, as a Georgetown fan, I came up out of a garage in Silver Spring. I didn't have any signal in the garage, and I came up from the garage, and my phone's buzzing and going off, and I'm like, all right, cool. I got a couple messages. I opened Instagram, and I saw he had passed. And I sat there. I was in shock. I had tears in my eyes because I watched Dikembe Mutombo's whole career at Georgetown. I watched his whole NBA career. And 4-time Defensive Player of the Year award winner, shot blocker extraordinaire. And one thing you'll always see, and his name always comes up, is when you have an 8 beat a 1 in the playoffs because of those 94 Nuggets that beat the Sonics, that were favored to go to the finals that year. They beat them in 5 games, and you always see that image of him laying on the floor with the ball in his hands.
Yep.
And I remember that he made the announcement that he was battling a tumor, and I was like, okay, this is okay. They caught it early, and just a couple of weeks ago, you saw Alonzo Mourning say he was cancer free, and I'm like, okay, my Georgetown guys are going down here. Like we gotta pull together here, and then to see him pass away, that ripped me a new one. And then I took a nap today. Like, I don't want to go any more garages. I don't want to take any more naps. I wake up from a nap and I found out John Amos died. John Amos has got to be top 3 TV dad of all time, because it goes James Evans, in no particular order, James Evans, Philip Banks, Dan Connor. Those are your 3 top dads that I wouldn't mind having as a dad, because I know I'm going to be raised right. Those are 3 dads on TV that I associated with when it was talking about dads. Those are my 3 favorites. And
argue that list.
Hey, I still watch Good Times faithfully. I still watch The Fresh Prince of Bel-Air faithfully, and I still watch Roseanne faithfully. I used to watch Roseanne every night because I love John Goodman anyway. But to hear that John Amos passed, and I'm just like, are we serious right now? Is this what 2024 is doing to us? It's just started October. Like, come on, man.
No, I've been through some stuff here this past month. I got another funeral I got to go to tomorrow. That'll be 3 in a month.
Well, and that's why I wore the jersey I wore to honor, Johnny Boudreau and him passing. He played for the Blue Jackets. So this is an old school Blue Jackets logo, but I figured we had honor. We talked about that earlier this summer too. And it's just, I'll give the NHL credit. All the teams have had a moment of silence for him. The amount of money they have raised for that family, it's just been incredible. That's, you hear these tragic stories of death and stuff like that, but it's nice to see when the community comes together and, you talk about, Hurricane Helen and what's going on in some of these parts of the country, but you get the good news of seeing, people come together in bad times. And I think that's the important part for us all to remember is it's a chance for us that are still here to do better and be better.
Absolutely right. Couldn't put it no better.
And on the Pete Rose Hall of Fame thing, I was ticked about that too, because I've been saying it. I've probably been saying it for 15 years. They're going to put Pete in after he dies, and I think that's a crock. And I think we, Pete Rose fans, should just flood Cooperstown if they try to do that and just boycott it. Just bam, no.
I agree with that.
I am not big on that. And then also in the RIP line, the prayer chain we want to set out, condolences to my guy from the American Pickers show, Frank Fritz, passed today.
Yeah, I heard that.
I enjoy that show. And just dropping.
And at young ages at that, man. It's just
I mean, besides Pete, yeah. How old was Mutombo? He was in his 50s, wasn't he? Yeah.
58.
Yeah.
Pete's 83, I believe.
83.
Yeah.
Yeah. So Pete lived a good life.
Yes, he did. He enjoyed his life. There's no doubt about that. You can
Say it's still worth $3 million.
which is that's my motto. I mean, I that's why I enjoy my life. It's you never know when that call is going to come. And in the line of work that I do, you see tragic accidents happen all the time. That's why I always tell my kids I love them whenever they know whenever I got a bad claim, because I always immediately text them all saying, "Hey, I love you guys," and they know that I'm looking at one that's brutal.
That hurts. Yeah.
It's just, but that's why we live like we do and try to enjoy ourselves, because you only get it once.
But, KG brought up something, and it's like he says, it might have been you, Matt, that what Pete did on the field is undeniable to get him in the Hall of Fame. It's what he did off the field. But the thing is, most of his screw-ups happened when he was a manager.
Right.
Not even a
That's
ball
why I think he
player.
should be in.
And then the idea of a player manager like he was back then, you ain't never going to see that again.
No.
You're never going to see a player manager again. And I always thought it was cool that he was player manager.
Well, fellas, let's brighten the mood a little bit, because
yes,
I mean, we can sit here and we can talk and we can talk and we can talk.
Yeah.
And we can reminisce about all these times. But let's brighten the mood a little bit.
Do that.
We got the MLB playoffs starting today. The Mets and Milwaukee should be live right now on ESPN. Atlanta, San Diego is at 8:38 on
Still
ESPN.
8-4 Mets. Looks like bottom of the eighth.
4 Mets.
Yeah, that's what I got.
This is the wild card. Detroit is leading Houston 1-0 in their series. KC is leading Baltimore 1-0 in their series. So far, what have you taken from these wild card games? And do you think Baltimore can beat KC?
They should. I mean, I think they had them in the regular season. I know that doesn't mean nothing, but you beat them earlier, but still, we're up 4-2. I think Baltimore was up on them during the regular season, but the pitching's what I've noticed out of these playoffs so far, and it's what I expected too. I mean, besides the Mets having 8, it's all low-scoring games here. I caught the tail end of the Birds game, Baltimore Orioles, and damn, you couldn't ask for more out of Burns. Burns gave you 8, 8 solid innings. You don't see that all the time in the majors. And then Kansas City started going through their repertoire. I believe they put 4 or 5 pitchers on the hill. They just outlasted us 1-0, man. Some people will say that's a hell of a game. I want to see some runs. And then I did not see the Detroit-Houston game, but Houston lost. I like that.
Yeah, Skubal pitched for Detroit today, and he was his Cy Young self. He was 6 innings. I think maybe Houston had 2 or 3 guys on the whole entire time that he pitched, and then they went to their bullpen by committee that's worked for them since August 10th, and it worked again today. They were just on fire. I gotta give a shout out to my AL Central teams, because the AL Central was supposed to be the worst division in baseball this year, is what everyone said, and Detroit came out today and showed, just think what Detroit did. They had a 0.2% chance on August 10th of making the playoffs. They went 31-12 since then to get in, and they're the hottest team in baseball. And whether or not, I don't know if they're gonna be able to keep it up, and who knows, Houston's definitely capable of winning 2 games in a row. But watching Skubal today, probably, I know that the Cy Young voting officially ends at the end of the regular season, but if he didn't put his stamp on the Cy Young for the AL, he probably did that today, even though I think Clase and Cleveland can make a strong argument. But they just, and KC did what they did. They got a big hit from Bobby Witt Jr., and Reagan's was his usual self. And yeah, you're right for Baltimore. It sucks for them. I mean, because they blew a well-pitched game, so it's hard losing. And I think they had third and first with 1 out in the bottom of the 8th. They couldn't score. I think they ended up being 0 for 8 with runners in scoring position in this game, and that's a tough one to lose. We'll see how they, that's one of those ones where you lose that type of game. It's game 2 the next day. It's always very interesting to see how that goes.
What are these series, Matt? Are they best of
Best of 3? No, just best of 3, and all 3 games are at home for Baltimore, so there's no travel in between. So that's Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. All 4 series go that way.
Is that
No,
new?
that's how they did it last year.
Did that last year too?
Yep. That's the advantage for the team that gets it. Even though they kind of screw over the division with the two that get the bye. I still think it's where MLB has screwed this up, because these teams play Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. In my view, they should be playing Friday. That gives, because the team that way that gets the byes actually has an advantage, because now they get Thursday off, and then most of these series go Friday, and then they get Saturday off, or a couple of them play Saturday, and they get Sunday off. Like, these teams that are in these wild card rounds still don't really lose they can set their rotations and set their bullpen, because they don't make them play, and of course we know why they do it this way. It's all about TV, but at the same time, I wish that they would give the teams that get the bye, the Yankees, the Guards, the Dodgers, and the Phillies, they should get a reward for, sitting. And I don't really think they get much of a reward with the way the schedule works out.
The schedule. I wish they didn't have them so early during the week,
Yeah.
You can't have them all prime time. I understand that, but we had a couple games a day. I didn't know they was on until I got home to check it out.
You can still have two go on at the same time, stagger them between 6 and 8:30 or something like that, and
I think so too. And Detroit, go ahead.
I wouldn't mind a day game in the middle of the week. I'm not gonna lie about that.
Oh, I do love a day game. I do.
They start again tomorrow, 2:30.
Yeah, ain't nothing better than coming home early, because I don't feel too good, boss. And just to come home and be like, I don't feel good, and lay on the sofa and watch a good game.
They say
that's
that
the
for
nice
March
thing with
Madness.
working from home. I get to work from home now, so it's like, oh, let me just turn on TV. Like this in my office, I can look right out into my main TV. So it's like I can work and I can still keep my eye on the game. If something good happens, pop my head up. It's nice. That's the nice part of working from home. I don't even need to do that.
And then earlier, Matt, you said something about how Detroit's been on fire. They really have. But I tell you, Minnesota wet the bed. They had a high percentage in August to making the playoffs. I want to say it was in the 70s.
Yeah, I'm honestly kind of surprised that Rocco still had. I thought he'd be the first manager fired, because this isn't the first time Minnesota's choked, right?
Right.
And in fairness, I'm going to give a little bit of credit to my Guards, which I do have a little bit I want to talk about them in a little bit here too.
Yeah.
But the Guards, right? At one point in time in August, that they were tied with KC and only a game up on Minnesota, and then they kind of got back to their formula of what has worked. And, I'm hopeful for them that it can work in the next round, because that bullpen's nasty for the Guards, and they don't need a lot. They just need their starters to get them. If they got a lead going to the 6th inning and they turn it over to those 4 big guns, they haven't lost a game. They won 82-0 in games that they led in the 9th inning and on.
Good.
So they get a lead late.
Now the winner of Detroit Houston will face your Guards.
Yes, which scares the hell out of me.
Yeah, because I'm hoping it's Detroit, because I'm tired of Houston. I'm just gonna say that.
I know. I'm with you on that.
The winner of Kansas City Baltimore face my Yankees, and I'm hoping it's Baltimore, because I would love the Yankees to come to Baltimore, and I want that rivalry to heat back up the way it was in the late 90s, where it was actually a rivalry where they just couldn't stand each other. And I would love to see that to go 7. The winner of the Mets and the Brewers face the Phillies, and the winner of the Braves Padres face the Dodgers. I don't have a horse in the race on the NL side. Philly might be your surprise. I mean, granted, Shohei is doing his thing, but I noticed that he always had, correct me if I'm wrong, during his MLB career, he seems like he has a power outage when it comes to the playoffs. He doesn't show out and show off the way he did during the regular season. Am I correct?
He hasn't made the playoffs.
He hasn't made the playoffs.
He's with the Angels, so we don't know how he's going to look in the playoffs.
I could have.
Nope.
Angels have no idea what the playoffs look like.
Yep.
Well, that's why he got a power outage. He ain't never been there. But see, that's why I'm asking you guys that question, because I'm not familiar with anything outside of the Yankees. Once the Yankees get eliminated, I may watch the World Series, but outside of that, I'm done because I'm hurt. So I'm. This is why I got baseball aficionados with me. So
I'm
I
sure.
won't show people that.
I'm sure Shohei is jacked. You know what I'm saying? It's got to be a long wait for him through the wild card times.
Right.
But yes, sir. The guy you've been seeing play ball out of this world the last couple of years is finally going to get in the playoffs, man. I'm happy for him, and I'm amazed at the season he had, man. 50-50, that's amazing.
It is.
Speaking of seasons, Matty Ice had a comment at the end of the Sunday Rise about one of your Guardians going 40 for 40, joining the 40-40 club, but you said the game got rained out.
Yeah, it was actually, he could have joined the 40-40-40 club. So he ended up with 39 homers, 39 doubles, and it was 41 steals. So he would have only been the second player ever in MLB history behind Alfonso Soriano when he did it with the Nats to do a 40-40-40 season. So it sucks he didn't get that last game, but like the game was supposed to start at 2. It was still raining here at 6:30. The talk, and it did stop finally raining at 9. And some of the Guards fans were a little ridiculous, like, oh, they should have played the game. Like, there's no way in hell they were going to make Houston be here until midnight to play a game when they had to turn around and then play in a playoff game on Wednesday. Like, they weren't going to do it. You know, like the game meant nothing other than a chance for Jose to get the record. And once you're going into a 3-hour rain delay, you know, they're going to cut it. So I get that. But I'm still optimistic for my Guards because here I keep talking about this bullpen, and these are the 4 guys. Okay, these are their 4 main guys. You get to the 7th inning, 6th inning, you're going to go with the lefty Tim Herron, whose ERA is 1.92. All right, then you go to Cade Smith, who's throwing mid 90s. Then has an incredible sinker with spot control. His ERA is 1.91. Then they get to the 8th inning where they finally learn how to use Hunter Gaddis. They tried to pitch him as a starter, and then they just said, hey, you know what? We're going to put you in a relief role, and you can just go all out. He's taken over the 8th inning role for them with a 1.57 ERA. Then that, of course, leads to one Emmanuel Clase, who set a record for the team with most saves in the season. He's currently on a 43 save streak in a row. He's only walked 10 batters in 70 innings, and he has an ERA of 0.61.
Good Lord.
You get to that bullpen. That's what I mean. That's what I keep talking about. You get the Guards to the 7th inning with a lead. I like her now. You know, look, it's the playoffs. You never know what can happen. But
yeah, Jinxie.
I know. I hope not. But I've been saying this all. I've been saying this all year. And other than, you know, sure, does one of them have a hiccup every now and then? Absolutely. But for the most part, you know, you get them in. You get it. Give me a lead with that team in the 7th inning, and you know, I'll take our chances. But will we score enough runs to have a lead in the 7th inning? And can our starters get through 5 innings? That's really all they have to do, is get through 5. Get through 5 and turn it over to these guys, especially with the way this series is set, because they go play one day off, play game 2, day off, 4 and 3, games 3 and 4 would be together, day off, and then game 5. It's set up for them and that bullpen to just throw out those
3
guys.
pitchers that way, probably.
Exactly.
3 starters anyway.
Exactly.
Crazy. You have been talking about that bullpen all year, and that's through either private chats or posting on our Facebook page. You've kept us up to date on that bullpen, and they are sick after you told me them numbers. I didn't know the numbers were that good.
See, when you start throwing out numbers like that, the first thing that popped in my head was, if this is MLB the show, immediately I know this is a showdown. This is one of them ones where either you're gonna fly out, strike out, or you're gonna get something. You might pull a single, but you're not pulling anything bigger than a single. And you know, I'm a double machine on MLB the show. That's one thing I am. I'm a double machine. So you know, I think I set the record for most doubles one season because you know I was just tearing the cover off the ball. But that's just me. But damn, a sub-1 ERA as a closer, 43 games save, only walked 10 batters.
Yep.
Jeez.
And he's like he's old school like your guy Riviera. I mean, he doesn't have the big strikeout numbers, and the reason why, because he's only got 2 pitches, his cutter goes between 99 and 103, and then he throws a slider off of it from the same format, so you don't know it's coming until it's and his slider's 91. It's not like, you know, but that cutter, he just he goes for outs, so he puts it in on guys' hands. Like I think I've seen more bats get destroyed from a Class A pitching than any other pitcher, because he goes in on the hands and you just see these bats shatter, you know. So He's kind of old school like Riviera was in the way he went about getting the saves. Riviera didn't care about strikeout per se. He just cared about getting the out. And Clase is kind of built. He's built himself the same way, and he talks about Riviera all the time. Like that's his point of study of how he's developed his game, and you can tell they're very similar to each other. And he's putting up Riviera type numbers through his first 4 years of his career. I'm hoping it goes well for him because I want him to get that national publicity that he so deserves with the way that he's pitched.
Now, quick question. Now I know Mariano didn't have a whole repertoire of pitches. You knew what was coming. You just had to hit it, but you couldn't do it. Now, when you throw a cutter is the one that spins clockwise, or does it spin? It actually spins over and it got a little movement to it.
It moves. I think it moves more to the side than, or and it will go down. His tends to go down on most hitters, and then also but he can put it anywhere he wants. That's the scary part with this cutter is he can put it anywhere in the strike zone he wants when he's on. He's got great control of it.
That cutter can get you a lot of ground balls too if it's going down.
Yeah,
and that could be the pitch is saving him from not having to be a strikeout guy as he's keeping the ball on the ground.
Yep.
So, but I think the go ahead, KG, finish that up.
You finish your thought there.
No, I think I was going to change the whole thing, so you finish up.
No, I was going talking about pitches. I thought about something. My godmother taught me the game of baseball, and she would sit there. She watched Oriole games, and if it was a full count, she could actually tell when the pitcher came out of his stretch. She'd be like, "Don't swing." Oh, gotcha. And the ball hadn't hit the glove. She'd be like, "Gotcha." Go ahead and walk on. How did you know that? Oh, she knew. She said when he throw that breaking ball, he gonna swing too high. He ain't ready for it. It's gonna fall off the table. What?
All off the table.
And she used to say that all the time. Oh, that's gonna fall on the table. It's gonna have that 12-6 drop. It's going off the table. You're not getting that. Don't worry about it. Don't even swing. You're not getting it.
That's the thing. Hardly anybody's got that anymore. Their break is different. It's going away from the batters most of the time than the way you used to have that 12-6. You rarely see a 12-6 anymore. Yeah. A lot of these breaking balls are much sharper.
Mm-hmm.
Mets just won 8-4. That game just went final.
8-4 final.
8-4.
Yeah.
So that put the Mets
up 1-0.
1-0. Yep.
All three road teams are 3-0 so far. So
yeah, see that. So I'm looking at. Damn.
If you're a Braves fan, you might be feeling pretty good right now. But
I don't know. I think San Diego got something for them. But the championship, the World Series is going through Philly or LA. It's going through the National League, in my opinion. I think both of them are the front runners. I think the Dodgers are going to get it. Dodgers are getting healthy at the right time.
They've been playing great ball the last month too, just because of that reason. I think they're finally starting to peak, and that's scary with that team.
Yeah, I see this, and I've heard this rumor that Midnight Riders hitting us in the comments over there. First, he talked about Shohei betting, but his second comment is something I read, and they're talking about possibilities of Shohei pitching in playoffs or World Series.
Yeah,
I don't think it's going to happen. Why? You try to get one ring when you might be able to get more, but if you hurt them, you won't get those more. You know what I mean? I would keep him just swinging the stick. I wouldn't put him on the mound yet. They say he's close, but
yeah, I think. But wouldn't that be like we talk about Dodgers World Series history, and you talk about remember the Kirk Gibson moment, right? It comes up on one foot and crushes over the back. Can you imagine that place if he comes in for a ninth inning to get the save to win the World Series for the Dodgers? Like you want to talk about etching your place in Dodger history in your first year there, like book it. That's going to be it.
I agree.
And if he does something like that, he can go ahead and run for governor of California. They'll vote.
Hell
for him.
Yeah, he can.
They'll vote for him.
Now they got Schwarzenegger in there.
Hey, this final thought on this because we got to get to the NHL preview. But I just thought about something. I just had something. I know y'all probably say, I know Matty will be on my side with this because it's not a stadium thing. So I know he'll be on my side. If we get a Yankees Dodgers World Series, it would be so cool to see the Dodgers actually don Brooklyn uniforms when they come to New York. Just for the nostalgia. Just
Fox
Donald
wants
Brooklyn,
that series. You know that for sure. Right?
huh?
Doesn't Fox have the World Series this year? I'm sure that's the World
Yeah.
Series they're rooting for is
Yeah,
Yankees
I'm pretty
Dodgers.
sure.
Oh yeah, two major markets.
Personally, I want Cleveland, Milwaukee. I want the battle of the Midwest markets, but
Ooh.
I admit I'm biased on that. So
You know what? I would love to see Midwest teams or those quote unquote smaller market teams. I would love to see them in the championship because there's nothing you can do about it. And then you'll finally realize that the so-called small market is not small market at all, because that's where some of the best fans live, is in those Midwest teams, those quote unquote small market teams. Midnight Rider says he's 14 months post surgery.
I still wouldn't risk it.
well, that kind of gets back to with the Nats, right? With Strasburg back in the day, right? When they
Correct.
shut him down that one year, and they still end up winning a World Series. So you can't really blame them. But I'm still not sure they don't shut down Strasburg that year. They don't win a World Series that year too. But
I agree with you, Matty. But I'm just so glad they won a World Series without Harper.
they did. So it doesn't matter, right? You won one, so you're all good. That's what I want for my guards. I just for my kid and for my wife. I just want to see them win
What's
one damn
Cleveland
championship.
got? Cleveland got any titles?
It's been since 1943.
Is that long?
2016 was when they lost to the Cubs in that brutal, which I still swear to this day, because there's the home run that Rajay Davis hit in the ninth inning to tie it, and then the rain came and they had to bring out the tarp for 15 minutes, and that let the Cubs kind of get composure again. I still, if that little rain delay doesn't happen, I still think the Guards win that game in the 10th because they had the Cubs rattled, but that gave the Cubs enough time to calm down, and but that was brutal.
All right. Next up, the piece of resistance of the show.
There it is.
We got a little hockey preview, NHL. So this is basically NHL tonight. Matty Ice, give me the free agency winners and losers of the NHL.
Yes, sir. So we'll start with, of course, it was a fun off season, and I'm gonna start with the winners because I think there was two to three teams in my view that were the clear winners. One, you have Nashville. They probably added two of the biggest names. They got Steven Stamkos from Tampa, which will circle back around to Tampa a little bit later with what they end up doing. But they got Steven Stamkos from Tampa. They added Jonathan Marchessault from Vegas, and then they added Brady Shea from Carolina. So they added in two forwards and a D for a team that made the playoffs barely last year, but kind of struggled a bit. They got UC Saros in goal. Those three guys are definitely going to give them the punch out west to keep an eye on. I think they're going to be one of the teams to keep an eye on. Also going to put Edmonton as a free agent winner. And they made the Cup final last year, they had a lot of UVAs that somehow they figured out a way to keep. They kept Adam Henry, they kept Janis Janmark, they kept Brown, they kept Corey Perry. They actually added Victor Arvidsson from LA, and then they also got one Jeff Skinner from Buffalo, who is a dynamic winger. He's never made the playoffs, which is crazy. He's been an 11-year player. He started off with Carolina. Rod Brindamore shipped him out the year before when he took over, and so then he went to Buffalo. So when he was with Carolina, he never made the playoffs, and when he was with Buffalo, he never made the playoffs. So if he somehow doesn't make the playoffs this year, the man is truly cursed because this Edmonton team, in my view, got better, not worse. So they are definitely a winner. The other winner is New Jersey. They finally added their goaltender in Markstrom, which is a guy from Calgary who a lot of people thought that they should have added at the trade deadline last year. And for whatever reason, they didn't make the move. They also got a couple of Carolina guys, and that theme seems to be present where with Carolina getting stolen a lot of players. They lost Brett Pesce and Steven Neusen, which is a great third, fourth line player, played on the power play for Carolina. They also added Brendan Dillon from Winnipeg and Thomas Tatar from Seattle. So the New Jersey Devils definitely added in some firepower for a team that missed the playoffs last year, that a lot of people were disappointed that missed the playoffs. So those three teams, Edmonton, Nashville, and New Jersey, would be my free agent winners for sure.
As far as losers?
So the losers, I'm starting with Tampa. And I know it sounds weird because Tampa added likely the biggest prize in free agency in Jake Gensel. They got him from Carolina. But the reason why I'm going to call that to be a loser move is because in order to get him, they trade away arguably their best defensive player in Mikhail Sergachev to Utah. And then they let their captain Steven Stamkos go. And Steven Stamkos has won them a lot of cups. And I don't get the why. Like you got a player that's 4 years younger. So he's got 4 more years than probably what Steven Stamkos has, but I don't get the why you let Stamkos go for what he did for that team. So I think it's going to be very interesting to see how that team responds and how it gels. And their goaltender is another year older, coming off of another injury, and he's granted it's a very old team now in Tampa, and I don't think that Jake Gensel is going to be the medicine cure to make them any younger. So I think Tampa's going to struggle. Vegas, you heard a couple of their names get torn apart too. They didn't really rebuild. They're going a bit younger. So I kind of put as Vegas as a free agency loser. And sadly, I have to put my Carolina Hurricanes as a free agency loser. The reason why is because they got hit hard. They lost Pesci, they lost Shea, they lost Jake Gensel. They replaced them with some depth, and they do have some good kids in there. They have one of the top younger farm teams prospects in the league. I think they're planning on those guys coming in there. But they, as far as on paper, there's a lot of people that have them being a team that's going to take a big step back. I don't think it's going to be quite that big of a step back. But as far as the free agency part goes, those 3 teams would be my 3 loser teams: Tampa, Carolina, and Vegas.
Question, Matty, and I'm. This is why I'm asking this question. In hockey, is experience better than going with the youth movement? Like if you got a guy that's hockey careers are a lot longer. Let's say you got a guy that's 32, 33. He has the experience because he's been in the league for a while. He's been playing hockey longer. Is it better to have a guy that around that age, maybe still in his prime, as opposed to having a guy maybe 26, 27, 28?
I think it honestly depends on the position. Like each position is different. Like goalies, you don't see the Martin Brodeurs that much anymore that go on to play, or the Patty Waz that can play into their mid and late 70s. And the reason for that being is that the goalie position is it's a lot of wear and tear on the body. And I know it sounds weird because these guys are going out there 82 games and getting hit all over the place, but you're doing motions as a goalie that aren't normal. Like you're taking your legs, going from a stand up, and then you're going down like this, and then you're hopping back up, and then you're going back down in these butterfly positions. The legs just aren't meant to have that wear and tear on the knees like that. So you don't see the goalies. So like goalie wise, I probably want that goalie to be in the mid 20 range even, because they just don't have the wear and tear on their bodies. The defensemen, like you see defensemen go all the time into their mid 30s, and even the forwards, like look at Ovechkin. Ovi's going to be playing at 38. Gordie Howe, hell, he played into his damn 50s. So it all depends on the player. I don't know there's a right formula per se. I think you want that good mix. You want those veteran guys, especially for when it gets to the playoff time. You want those guys that have been there before, that can keep the locker room calm, that have been through a triple overtime game, that know what to expect, know how to do it. I think having a little bit of that youth isn't bad either. You want those guys that don't know any better and they just go out there and just go. So I think having those teams with that good mix is really what you want. I don't know that there's one right age or not age, and then it just depends on that player too. There's some players at 34, I'm like, it's about time for you to be done. And there's others where you're like, hell yeah, he can go another year or two. Even Stamkos is probably one of those. Or Ovi, there's nothing. Only thing that can stop Ovi is if he gets an injury. But mentally and his skills are still there. He still has the greatest wrist shot that I've ever seen. That hasn't gone away. He still has that in his repertoire at 38. I know we'll get later too, I'm sure.
Oh yes. New rules coming up in this new season.
So not a lot that is really going to be noticeable to the fans, but there's 2 biggest ones. If you notice, sometimes a coach can challenge a play. The two big ones that they can challenge is if a goalie was interfered with on a play, or if a play was offsides on a goal. Those two still exist. The penalty, if you get it wrong, is the other team gets a power play. Well, one other penalty is the delay of game for the puck going over the ice. So now if a team commits that penalty and the coach feels that the puck got deflected, so it didn't just go in off the fly, they can now challenge that play. And if they are successful, that penalty comes off the board. The key to this one, it's going to be interesting to see how many teams actually go for this, is if they're wrong, they still get the delay of game penalty, and then they get the minor penalty for the challenge. So now they're getting 2 delay of game penalties. So they're setting themselves up to go 5-on-3. So it's going to be interesting to see what coaches, if anything, challenge that. The other big rule change is at a face-off drop when the linesman goes to drop the puck. If one of the centers encroaches on the face-off, kind of what would be like an offsides in football, normally they raise their arm and they boot that center out, and then if that center does it again, that team now gets a minor penalty for delay of game for 2 encroachments on a face-off. Well, now if either center does it one time, the referee's just going to raise his arm one time. Those 2 centers can still stand in, but then the very next time, no matter which team does it, if another team does an infraction, they get a delay of game penalty. So the good part about this is that you're not going to see the linesman hold the puck for 6 different times and have to drop the puck 6 times. Hopefully this should speed up that part of the game. But those second drops, it's going to be, you're not going to be seeing many centers cheat on those because they're not going to want to take a chance of giving their team a penalty where they're going to be shorthanded. So those are the 2 big rules that you might see come up in a game where you're like, hey, what the heck's going on? Why are they challenging this play? Or why is this now a penalty, on a face-off?
Now, these rules are to speed up the game.
Well, the one is to give the coaches a chance to challenge a play that before they couldn't. And there's been times where you see the replay, and because before the delay, the puck going over the glass was not challengeable. So whatever decisions the 2 referee and the 2 linesmen made on the ice is what stood. So it's all off of what they saw or heard. And sometimes it's really easy to miss if a puck got deflected or not. It's going at a high rate of speed. It's going up over glass. Whether or not it hit the glass or not, you can't always see off the first glance. Especially from being on, I've been on a couple of different NHL ice, for doing some charity games and stuff like that. You got that net in the background plus the seats. Like once that puck gets over the boards, it's real easy as an official to lose it. You just, because there's black, there's different colors. It's just real easy to lose it. So this gives the coaches a chance to right a wrong if they feel that puck got deflected. The other one is meant to speed up faceoffs, because a couple times you get centers in there, they back out, they go in, they go out. This is going to speed up that part of it.
I never understood that. Why do they back out and go in and then back out and go in? And what is that all about?
Normally they're getting tossed because there's the circle is set up where there's 2 spots where the sticks are supposed to be, and that's where, and so if a team, and then the home team gets to put down their stick first if it's a neutral zone face off. If it's in the offensive zone, the defensive team puts their stick down first, and that is an advantage in the sense that you get to guide how your stick is going to be placed compared to the other teams. So, but if you cheat on that face off, then you get thrown out. And then the other team could have their center and they cheat, they get thrown out. And sometimes the linesman screws up the puck drop. And so if he screws it up, he's going to blow it dead himself and say, hey, we're going to do this again because that wasn't a fair drop. So those are still going to happen from time to time, but this should keep the amount of people just encroaching on the face-off to a minimum.
The reviews are coming around all sports now. So they were doing a review. I can't remember what I was watching, but it was a sport I wasn't thinking about reviews would be on. It's in baseball, it's in football, it's in basketball. I like it, but I don't like it. I like that the calls get made right. And I always joke that one day we're going to have computers refereeing these damn games. And I don't like it because it can really kill momentum in a game. No matter which sport you're playing, it can kill the momentum. If you're coming back from 20 down and you're on an 8-0 run and all of a sudden they're going to do a challenge, red light, green light, whatever they call it, that takes time. And you're just sitting there, like you're on Jeopardy or something. I like it and I don't like challenges, but the game needed it to make them their calls.
Yeah, I'm with you. And hockey's the same way. You know, like there's the goaltender interference is the one that gets challenged the most of whether or not a guy interfered with the goalie. And it's look, I've played some form of hockey since I was a kid. I've officiated now for 20 years. When an NHL goaltender challenge comes up, that's probably what I get the most texts on of what do you think this is going to be a goal or no goal? And I tell them the same thing. I was like, I have no goddamn clue, because it doesn't. From one game to the next game, it just doesn't add up. It doesn't make sense. Like you watch one play and you're like, oh, okay, this is the standard. And then the next game, that same exact thing happens and they call it the other way. It's like, I honestly think that they sit in Toronto, which is where their review booth is, and they roll the dice. If it's an even, it's no goal. If it's odd, it's a goal, because that would at least make more sense to me than sometimes when I see some of these calls get made.
You talk about losing the puck in the crowd. Ever since they went away from the way Fox used to do the puck with the glowing blue puck, it's kind of hard to keep up with it on TV sometimes.
It is.
And I always wonder why they went away from that. That was like so innovative.
So I think some of it was the hockey purists, because the thing I hated the most is watching this blue streak go through the crowd. Like it annoyed me. But I think for a new person watching it, I think it's great. I do like though, because like now they've got these chips in the puck, so like they still show you like immediately after the puck's been shot, like how fast was that shot. And I think that type of innovation that they've done with that is kind of cool. I wouldn't mind like if they just like when the puck's in the corners or the boards, where they could like put a little circle on it so you can tell where it is in there. I think that would be helpful for people. But yeah, the slap shots being red and stuff like that, as a hockey purist, I'll be honest, sometimes I got a little annoyed with that too. But I could understand it for a newbie, where to make it easier to watch. And I've always been a fan of, hey, if the puck being blue or red gets people into the sport and it makes them want to watch it more, hell yeah, like that's what I'm all about. Like I want to get people excited about the sport and get them into it, because most of the time, like I've always told anyone, you go to a hockey game live, especially if it's a playoff game, and if you're not hooked after that, there's something wrong. Like it's just so easy to get hooked once you go to an NHL game live and you get into that. It's an atmosphere. Football, I think, gets close. Baseball in the playoffs is great. I think there's great atmospheres there, but you get to an NHL arena during a playoff game, and it's just bedlam in any of them. It's just so much fun.
I've been to maybe this many hockey games, maybe live. Never been to a playoff hockey game, but playoff hockey, there's nothing like playoff hockey. That's the only time I watch, actually. We used to go to hockey games because there used to be girls there. Girl chicks dig the hockey, man. And the girls around my way, we had names for them. They was called puck sluts. That's what we called them, man. They go got the jerseys on, everything, man. Going in the arena. We used to go to the arena back in the day to see chicks. To see hockey. The girls love it, man.
They do. Chicks love hockey. Oh, or it's the long ball, right? That's what they love too, right?
Chicks dig the long ball.
Chicks dig the slap shot.
Now we bring it closer to home on our side. Washington off season / Ovi watch. I've been saving this for the longest because I wanted to ask you: are we ever going to get Nikki back? Like, I'm hurting, man.
It's not sounding good. Like I've not heard anything of of him being possibly ready to come back this year. My gut might be, he's not officially retired. I don't see it like in any. I've even like going onto the show, I kind of was trying to look for any type of news on him. I just haven't really seen anything, as far as like that he's even with the team. He's not with the team in training camp, so I haven't heard of a possible timeline of when he's due back. And especially with the injury that he's had, I'm not sure what to expect of him if he does come back, honestly. So this whole little section I did is assuming he's not coming back this year. It's just that's how I've kind of gone off it, because I just haven't seen anything that says that he is. Sadly.
Backstrom?
Yeah.
You guys talking about Nick Backstrom?
Yep.
Yeah.
What's wrong with him?
Oh boy, I can't even remember the injury that he had now, but he was out basically all of last year. I don't know if
All right.
I can't
Yeah.
remember his back or hammy or what it was that he
I
tore.
thought
But
it wasn't on the team.
it's similar to Gabriel Landeskog for Colorado. He missed all of last year, and they're still not talking about Landeskog being ready. I think those two may have had a similar type injuries, but it's just something that it's hard to play hockey with. So I'm not sure if he's going to come back from it or not. But you want to start with Ovi? We'll start with Ovi, then I'll break down their off season if you
What's
want.
his number
So-
now?
So he is 41 goals away from 894, which would tie Gretzky. So he needs 42 to break it. He scored 31 last year, which now that was his lowest full season goal total in his career. But if you remember that at the All-Star break, he only had like 8 or 10, and then he kind of started getting going again. The year before last year, he had 42. So with the full year, can he score 41, 42 goals? Of course he can. He's done it 8 or 10 times in his career. So yes, he can do that. He's 39 though. So the question is going to be for him is, can he stay healthy? If he doesn't do it this year, he's going to do it very early next year, because there's no way, barring a career-ending type injury, that Ovi doesn't get this record. It's going to happen. He's too close. He doesn't have that mentality of walking away from the game, being this close. I think he wants to break the record. Most importantly, which is cool to me, Gretzky wants to see him break the record. Gretzky's already promised that the second that he gets within reach of it, which will probably be within 5 goals, he will start traveling with the Capitals so that he can be there when he does break it, which is what I love about Gretz. He's just all about the game and moving the game forward. So he's definitely going to do it. I think it would be cool if he can do it this year towards the end of the year, because you'll get that excitement going into the playoffs. But it's all going to be about health and the one addition that the Caps made in Pierre-Luc Dubois, because I think he's going to be the possible X factor in helping Ovi be better.
Wow. Dubois. Say it.
Yeah, Pierre-Luc Dubois. He's the guy. This kind of leads right into their offseason. Overall, I think the Caps had a good offseason. Look, they were the 8th seed last year. They made the playoffs with the worst ever goal differential in NHL history. That's not a formula that you want to have to try to get back into the playoffs again. So I think that the Caps did make some good moves. The first one is the trade that they made, which is going to be there's when this trade happened, I know like Scott Rivette and Jeff Nail, they are very gung-ho about this trade, and I get the why, because it's a low risk, high reward trade. When they traded away Darcy Kemper, who was what I like to call the 1B type goaltender. He's not a 1A. He was never the guy. He was a guy that you could play, and if he got hot, would win you 3 or 4 games, but he could easily, when he got cold, lose you 3 or 4 games. So they traded away a goalie that is kind of meh. And they got Pierre-Luc Dubois, who is, this is year 5 for him. He was a number 3 overall pick. No, not year 5. I'm sorry, year 8. But this is his 4th team, and he's never put up more than 60 points. Now, in fairness to Pierre-Luc Dubois, he's not necessarily been on good teams. He's been with Columbus. When he was with Winnipeg, they were kind of marginal. Last year with LA was okay, but not good. So he's never had another guy to, I think, really help blossom his career. Well, that all obviously changes now, because I think Pierre is going to be put, and this is why I don't think that Backstrom's coming back, because I don't think that you make a move for Pierre-Luc Dubois if you think that Backstrom's going to be back anytime this year where it's going to be helpful. So I think he's going to be on the line with Ovi, and I think his job is going to be the Backstrom job, especially on the power play. Feed Ovi. And I think if he does that, and if those two mesh well, now that opens up the Caps offense again, and that gets that offense into an area that they just haven't been in a while. But I think most importantly for the Caps is they improved their defense. They added Jacob Chichurin from Ottawa, who never been a big goal scoring guy, but that man is a beast down low. I think Caps fans are going to fall in love with him very, very quickly because of the style that he plays. He's one of those guys that can get on the puck, and he gets the puck out. Like, he gets the puck on a stick, that puck is going to be out of your zone with no problems. And then they also added Matt Roy from LA, another solid defenseman. And then they also added Andrew McApain from Calgary. So they added 3 really good defensive type players that I think are going to help get rid of that that goal differential a little bit. So do I think that Washington got better? Yes. Do I think that they got good enough to be in line with the Devils and the Florida and the Rangers of the Eastern Conference? No. So I see them being a playoff team. I could see them being in that, probably in that 4 to 6 range, probably fighting with Carolina and Boston in that area of the Eastern Conference standings in the playoffs.
You were talking about with Dubois coming in, probably not bringing back Backstrom. Do they play the same position?
Yeah, he's a center.
So they wouldn't.
They could still
Okay.
not. Don't get me wrong. If Backstrom comes back, they're going to find a spot for him. It just, I think that this eases the pressure, even if he does come back, of he doesn't
Yeah.
have to be the guy right away. And when you've missed this much hockey, I think even if he can come back, I think it lets him to be maybe in a lesser role, which I think would be good for him. Now, don't get me wrong. I think when it comes to power play, you're going to try to reignite that old magic, especially if Dubois struggles. If Dubois struggles, that's a whole different ball game. But I think this.
Right.
I think Dubois knows that this is his shot. Like if he ever wants a shot at making one of these 8-year, $8 to $10 million type year salaries, he's got to have a big year this year. He has to. He's got to break that 60-point mark, and he's definitely capable of it. And I hope for Washington's sake that it works out for him. I'm just not sold that it will.
For Jack, jump out and
Sure.
jump back in. You getting choppy.
Choppy.
Second, I got a question for you, Matty. We've in the last since 2018. Well, we won the cup 17-18. You done had Barry Trotz, Todd Reardon, Peter Laviolette, and now you have Spencer Carberry. Do we have the coaching that can get us over the hump? I'm rubbing my head because I remember having Boudreaux and just scoring all these points and being out of this world and never could get past the second round. Then we get Dale Hunter and it's like nostalgia all over again. Then you get Adam Oates and it's nostalgia again and we can't get over the hump. You get Trotzy and we really start rolling and we build something and then they get cheap and don't bring them back.
Right.
And then we've had, since winning the Stanley Cup, we've had 3 different coaches take over this team. Are we at a place where we were 5 years ago, which is Stanley Cup worthy?
I don't know that you are, and it's not because of the coach. I think like the job he did last year to get the Capitals into the playoffs, I think was pretty good. Because I'm not sure, other than Ovi, what they had last year was really a playoff team. But he got them in. They played great down the stretch. And the nice thing is he knows a lot of these guys that came up from the AHL because he was the coach in Hershey. So he's got familiarity with these kids as they come up. And I think that does count and that means something. And it's going to take him a couple of years to get his chops, at the NHL level. His first time being a coach at the NHL level. So I think that I don't think it's coaching. I think, unfortunately, the problem for the Caps is you're stuck. And you're stuck because you can't have Ovi not break the record in a Caps jersey. You just can't. He's got to break it in the Caps jersey. But you've got this mix right now of a lot of aging guys. The TJ Oshie's still on the roster, and you're trying to bring in these young guys. And right now, the mesh just isn't there. Who hit? It looks like San Diego just hit a home run in the first inning, so they're already up in that game. So that it's just not, you're stuck right now. And I think that's the biggest thing is the Caps are still trying to decide, do we try to retool and make this work, or do we go for the rebuild? And I don't think they're going to be willing on pulling the trigger on going for the rebuild until Ovi retires. And that's probably what I think the Caps could use is they need the next group. And I don't know, they've got a couple of young players that I think have that potential. But I think they need more of that, and they're just not there yet. And I don't, that's no fault. Like, I get why they're doing what they're doing. Because you can't, what would be their biggest trade piece right now? It would be Ovi, right? But
Yeah.
you're not trading him. That's not even an option for you to do. You can't have him break that record in any other jersey. So you're stuck where you're just you're trying to figure out what to do and how to do it. And I think these moves help. Like I said, I think they're good moves. I do think that they're going to be better. I mean, and look, hey, once you get in, like I said this last year, they end up getting swept. You got Ovi in the playoffs. All bets are off on what he can do and get on a run. So they added Logan Thompson in goal, which is basically going to be the replacement. So it's going to be him with what's the other guy's name now? I'm drawing a blank on him. Ensign Grin. Why am I drawing a blank on his name?
Thompson. Yeah, Thompson
No,
at goalie, and
Thompson's who they added, and I'm drawing a
Lindgren.
blank on. Yes, him. So again, Logan Thompson could be a really good goalie. He's younger, which I think is helpful, but he's also been injury prone. So we'll see. Can you get more than Can you get good amounts out of their goalies? And I think for them, their goalies are going to be key. I think that's the big piece of the puzzle that they're still missing. In their big run, what did they have? They had Holtby, who in his prime was a beast. And I don't think that they've had that goalie since Holtby's been gone to go with the talent. And and look, the goalie position isn't what it used to be. You don't see guys like Brodeur who play 70 regular season games a year anymore. It's more this 50-30 split, but you need that guy that's playing the 50 games to have a really strong record. And I don't know that the Caps have that guy in either of these two, but we'll see. I mean, Logan Thompson's kind of a bit more of an unknown that really has never had the chance in Vegas to be the guy, and he's going to get that chance here. So, that it could be all that he needs.
Looks like it was Fernando Tatis that went deep, 2-run shot in the bottom of the first for San Diego. I want San Diego to win. I got too much of the Braves in the 90s, man. Good God.
I know.
They crammed it down our throat. I mean, team was great, though.
Yes, they were.
Speaking of which, the Midnight Rider said Padres versus Guardians.
I've seen that.
Then I would love that. I would love that. Anything with Guardians in it, I like. So let's be honest. Let's be honest. I'm biased on that.
I've been down on the Guardians all year. I swore they was going to fall apart at that point. You told me they were.
I know you did.
I tell you,
I forgive you, Jack. It's okay. I forgive you.
Thank you, sir. I bow down. I was wrong.
Don't get me wrong. When we only had the game lead, I started thinking to myself, "Are we gonna piss this away?" But we did not, fortunately. So.
No, sir. I don't visit Cleveland as much as I used to. My sister-in-law moved. We used to go up there and visit her and go to all the games. Like I said, she took me to LeBron's coming home game when he came back with the Lakers.
Yep.
Yeah, I mean, we were 6-8 chairs off the floor. It was amazing.
That's amazing.
That sounds amazing.
Oh,
Maddie, breakout prospects.
Yeah, we got a few again this year. Last year was all about Connor Bedard in Chicago, and he came through. Won the Calder. Luke Hughes in New Jersey had a good year. Brock Faber, Adam Fantilli in Columbus, and Leo Carlson in Anaheim. They all made immediate impacts. This year, that the number one pick was Macklin Celebrini in San Jose, and Mativ Mikov in Philly. Those are going to be your two front runners early on. There's also, though, a couple guys that I would keep an eye on. Two of them are actually in Dallas, which is really scary because that team, went far last year, and they got a couple of young kids that just look like they're going to be really good. Kogan Stankoven, which is just that's a hockey name right there, isn't it? Kogan Stankoven. You don't get no names like that in football or baseball, but in hockey you get names like Kogan Stankoven. I mean, that's just a beautiful hockey name right there. And Maverick Bork is another one too for Dallas. Then you got Cutter Gauthier in Anaheim. I think he's going to have a really fun rookie season. Lane Hudson up in Montreal, which if Montreal ever gets going again, you want to talk about a hockey town. Montreal's been suffering here lately, and that town gets now that they get going. I think they're still a couple years off though. And then Nikola Kovalenko in Colorado. So those would be the kids this year that I would keep an eye out on that you're probably going to see come up on some highlight reels from here and there.
All right. Favorite part of the show.
Yes.
The predictions.
So last year I did pretty good with our playoffs. I think I ended up going all the series. I think it was like 12 or 14 at the end. So I'll take that any day of the. Of course, I didn't bet on any from my brother because I know the year that I start betting on it. That's when I go back to an offer or something like that. So I'll just keep making the predictions, and you guys can place the bets off of them. But I'll start with the West. There's 8 teams make it each year. I think you're going to see 6 repeat teams make it again. Colorado will be there, Nashville will be there, Dallas will be there for sure, Edmonton will be there again, Vancouver will be there again, and I think Vegas is going to be there. I think Utah, which was the formal Arizona Coyotes, I think they're going to surprise a lot of people, and I have them getting in. I think the momentum of them actually being with an owner that cares. He went out and spent money. He got some good players there this year. And the Western Conference to me just isn't that deep where I can see a team that was out last year getting in. I have them getting in, and then I have Minnesota getting into the playoffs as well. So the 2 teams in the West that I have going out would be the LA Kings and Winnipeg. I would kind of still see them as being that 9-10 run where they could still get in, and then also Seattle, which is a team that got in their second season, then kind of fell off again last year, and they're still just kind of in that iffy position. But in the West, the big guns are going to still be Edmonton, Vancouver, Colorado, and Nashville. If you remember, do you guys remember from the year before the last time that a team from Canada won the Stanley Cup? See if you remember my stats. This is just a quiz real quick.
Ooh. It was in
Montreal.
90s.
Yes, 1993. And I have enjoyed watching the Canadian team suffer. So we'll remember this part. So those are going to be my teams in the West that I see, getting pretty far. In the East, I've got 2 new teams coming in. I've got Detroit going in finally. I think they finally, they've been close these last couple of years. They've got a lot of young pieces in there. And then clearly New Jersey, who did not make it last year, they are going to be in. So with 2 teams in, that means 2 teams have to come out. And I'm going to take the New York Islanders out, even though they brought in Patty Waugh as a coach last year and they did okay. I don't think that they added it. They just didn't do anything this offseason compared to other teams in the East. And I am going to actually take the Tampa Bay Lightning out of the playoffs. I just don't think the move for Gensel is going to work. I think they're going to miss Stamkos. And I think this is the year that age finally comes back to haunt them. So I'm going to go Florida, Toronto, Boston, Detroit, the Rangers, Devils, Carolina, and Washington in the East to make it. So I know a lot of people are predicting Carolina's doom this year, but I think Rod still gets them in. What they do in the playoffs, I'm not too terribly sure, but I think they still get in. So my top 4 teams would be the Rangers and Devils, and then of course our defending champion Florida and Toronto out of the East. When we get that further into the playoffs, I like in the finals this year. I think this is where Florida did a pretty good job of keeping their core together. But when you're that team on top of the mountain, you don't get quite as good of an off season. Teams are gunning for you. And I think in the long run, that's going to come back to get Florida. So I actually like the New Jersey Devils out of the East. And I will take the Edmonton Oilers out of the West for my Stanley Cup final. And as much as I hate to say it, I think this is the year the Cup finally goes back to Canada, and I predict that the Edmonton Oilers will be your 2024-2025 Stanley Cup champions.
How many games? I'm writing this down. How many games?
Oh, let's say 6 here today.
All right. Well, I got a prediction of my own. It's been about 4 years, so I think it's about time it happens again. Ovi turns the clock back this year and wins the Rocket Richard Trophy.
That's a bold, that qualified to me as a bold prediction.
He's known for bold predictions.
I know.
I don't know. I got a feeling, but when we get older, you get that feeling sometimes, and you get that feeling like, oh yeah, I can still do it. I'm gonna show you young puppies I can still do it. Now, me, I'm young, but I'm older than a lot of people I work with. And the young bucks think they can run circles around me, and I just laugh at them. I said, "You running? All I gotta do is walk, and I can still move faster than you. Come on now." So it's all about. I think he's going to get that spark, and it's going to be. I think it's going to be a fun season to watch. I think he'll break the record this year, but I think he'll do it in epic Ovi fashion, where it's like, oh, we ain't seen this guy in a while. He's gonna stay healthy, outside of the minor wear and tear, but he's gonna stay healthy. He's gonna get the Rocket Richard Trophy again this year.
Stay away from his predictions, man. Stay away from his predictions. He predicted that Seattle was going to beat Detroit, and he predicted that Arizona was going to beat Washington. So,
well, hold on.
I got it right here.
Because going to beat Washington for a reason. Now, what I
said,
say,
St. Juice was going to get
private.
St. Juice was going to get 2 picks.
Well, okay, that part didn't happen, but certain things I have to say because it's like once you do things and it's a routine,
I know,
and it works, you don't want to break the routine.
No, I know all about the feeling. I get the feeling sometimes too. Sometimes, with my bookie.
And I don't mind the one game out of any NFL schedule that I don't mind being wrong on is the Washington game. When I pick Washington to lose and they win, I don't mind being wrong on that at all.
I couldn't believe you picked it.
Oh yeah, for the rest of the season.
You should.
For the rest of the season, I'm picking them to lose, and I'm picking Dallas to win. That way, Dallas can go 1-16, and Washington can go 16-1. That's what I need right there.
Don't get on that 16-1 train, please. I heard enough of that today. To the Super Bowl.
Oh Lord, that's a jinx right there. We talked about jinx earlier. That's a jinx.
Yes.
Here's a question for you, Matty. Do you think, in your heart of hearts, that we really get this NHL thing back pumping the way it once was? Maybe about, I'll say even pre-pandemic, because pre-pandemic, NHL was off the chain as a whole. Every people that didn't even know watch hockey was talking about hockey. And it seemed like the pandemic hit and everything just kind of waned off a little bit. Do you think we'll get back to that this year?
Honestly, I don't know. I mean, the NHL does a lot of stupid things to shoot itself in the foot. I don't think it does a good job of marketing its stars outside of, it's hard to, because your biggest star right now is probably Connor McDavid, and he plays in the West Coast on a Canadian team. Mm-hmm. So as much, it's hard to get him in primetime matchups when, you've got 7:30 puck drops, on West Coast time. And that's what 40 of their games are going to be. Right. So, when he comes on the East Coast, like I think, between ESPN and TNT last year, when they went on their, Steve, say hi. When they went on their run, on the East Coast swing up in New York, all 3 of those games were on TV, so some of it is where the stars are, but the NHL has never done a good job of rising the star talent. ESPN getting it back, I think sometimes, rubs people the wrong way too, because ESPN doesn't necessarily always look out for hockey like I think some of the other networks that have covered it have. And I think it hurts too. Some of the guys that they have doing the national broadcast just don't have like what Doc Emmerich brought to a game. Like when Doc Emmerich called the game, you were there, and they've got a good announcer in John Forsland, who used to do the Carolina games. He's now doing the Seattle games, and does some TNT games. I'm waiting for somebody for him to just be the guy like Doc was, and it doesn't matter what network. Like John Forsland needs to call a Stanley Cup final. Like he's just that good. He's one of those voices that I think helps bring people into the game, and I think it might be a little bit different too with Washington, just because they've kind of been on a downturn. I think it all depends on the market. Like you go out to Carolina, in Raleigh, they sold out every game last year for the first time in their history. Boston still draws really, really well. So I think it just depends on where you are. I think in Washington right now, it's a little bit down just because the team isn't what it used to be. But I don't think the league helps itself any with how it markets its players. It's similar to baseball. I think baseball's done a poor job of marketing its stars, and they just, hockey gets in the same trouble of like how baseball likes to show the Yankees and Red Sox on every Sunday night baseball. Every main hockey game seems to be either the Rangers and the Penguins or the Rangers and the Flyers or this, it's the Rangers and Boston. And I get it. Some of those teams have been good, and they deserve their airtime, but they don't do a good job of getting the other stars in the league into those spots.
Once upon a time, we used to be a proper nation. We used to get NHL tonight and MLB tonight 5 nights a week.
Mm-hmm.
We used to be a land of kings and queens. And now they treat us like peasants.
Like Matty was saying about, having, your best player playing West Coast and doesn't get to be seen as much. It was the same way with Gretzky when he went to LA. I mean, all I get to see him was on SportsCenter the next day, really, because I wasn't staying up till 1 a.m. to watch the conclusion of that game that been put on the West Coast. So it seems like they're kind of flatlining because I remember it being like that in the 90s.
It did change a little bit because you got to remember when Gretzky went from Edmonton to LA, like there's no San Jose Sharks, there's no Anaheim Ducks if it wasn't for Wayne Gretzky being in LA. So like those two teams, I know with this, there's probably even no Seattle Kraken if there's no Gretzky, because hockey exploded on the western side of the state like it never has before. I mean, you actually got kids from California making the NHL now. That never happened in the 70s, 80s, and 90s. Like California was just a dead zone for hockey. The Kings were always there, but that was it. And until Gretzky kind of Hollywood up hockey a little bit, similar to, you remember, when Magic was with the Lakers, right? Like that was must, and he brought, like John Candy was always at every Kings game back in the day. And even Will Ferrell now, like Will Ferrell is a rabid Kings fan. So you still see him there. So you're right in one sense that, yes, having him out on the West Coast did hurt, but they figured out a way somehow to still get LA into prime time. For whatever reason, they don't do that.
Oh, yeah.
And Edmonton's got the best player in the game right now, Connor McDavid. They should be. That's the guy that should be on every 8 o'clock. He should be prime time on ESPN and TNT 15 to 20 times a year. He just should.
What they did with Gretzky, they did, he played his late games during the week, but on the weekend, it seemed like you'd always see Kings.
They magically had earlier start times, right? Isn't that weird how you can do that with the schedule? Right.
To let everyone see them. And
that's what they need to do with McDavid.
Yeah, I like watching McDavid play. Like I said, I don't watch much hockey, but I know who's who.
Well, gentlemen, we've come to the end of our NHL preview.
Oh, wow.
We did it. I mean, we did it. We'll be back Thursday with Are we doing
We got something going on, don't we, KG?
Yes, we do. And I would like for you to take that. Look, I'm gonna give you center stage for this one.
Thank you, sir. Wow, we had big news here at Sideline Junkies Podcast Network. And we're gonna be dropping a new show tomorrow night, 8 p.m. It's gonna be on YouTube, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Facebook Live, and we're gonna put a new show out there called In the Passenger Seat with Jack Carr. Yeah, it's gonna be a fun show, everyone. It's gonna be a little different from the shows I've worked on, but I'm gonna be doing interviews, and I enjoyed the few interviews I've done with junkies and All In Sports, so I really look forward to it. Tomorrow night, 8 p.m. Tune in, folks.
Yes, indeed.
Almost
and
forgot.
With that, I'll say thank you to Matty Ice. You will see him periodically doing. We still got playoffs. We still got MLB playoffs to talk about. So when Matty got some free time, we really get into MLB playoffs. We got that. Then we still got hockey to talk about. So of course you'll be seeing Matty a lot more in the coming weeks. We got in the NBA preview coming up. I've locked Perry in, I think the 16th, which is a Wednesday. I locked him in. What else we got? We got Thursday night football coming up Thursday, so we'll be up before Thursday, and then of course we got the gridiron on Saturday morning, as well as the return to WrestleManiacs. So
we're busy. We are busy.
It's not on a Monday. It's a Wednesday. That's September. Mind your business. See, kids, man. But until Thursday, until tomorrow, because you got In the Passenger Seat coming. That's Matty Ice. That's the Gentleman Jack. I'm the big guy KG, the boss BJ, and the Midnight Rider on special assignment. So until tomorrow, we don't do no overtime, y'all, except for when we do NHL preview. We are out of here.